Good. All right. Are we on, Lindsay? We should be good. Good. All right. Good morning, everyone. We are here at the special council meeting for August the 11th at 11 a.m. And it's regarding an update with regards to our wastewater master plans for Lions Head and Tobermory. And with us today, we have WSP representative and OCWA representative. So I'll let them introduce themselves and you can give your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Chris Wilson. I'm the project manager from WSP.
And I'm Leo Paul Frigo. I'm the operations manager for the Northern Bruce Peninsula drinking water and wastewater facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so this is project update meeting number 3 to council. We met last time in I think about September of last year, and we were looking at various updates to the project, a couple scope changes related to the project area and the alternatives. So since then, we've continued to work on the project, and just to give you a project update before we go into the Public Information Center in later August. So on the first page, we'll just give a brief introduction of the project again. So this is a partnership between Ontario Clean Water Agency, Municipality of Northern Bruce Peninsula to undertake the water and wastewater master plans for the communities of Tobermory and Lions Head. And basically the goal of the master plan is to develop a strategy to provide water and wastewater into, for today and into the future, approximately 2046. So the master plan takes into considerations such as climate change, social and economic impacts, as well as the current limitations of the existing water and wastewater facilities and distribution systems and community growth. So the approach for this master plan is approach number 1 under the guidelines of the municipal class environmental process. And it's a very broad focus. It doesn't go into, specific individual projects other than indicating them. Those projects in the future would be subject to their own individual schedule EAs, whether they're schedule B or C's. And then, the finer details would be brought out in the future on those. So again, it's more of a broad overview. We look at, specific projects that would be needed in the future, depending on the preferred solution. And then you would have to advance those in the future to, say you want to build a wastewater treatment plant, you would go into the details of the design options, capacity, what areas you're servicing and all that. So you get into that a bit in the master plan, but in the future, you have to do individual EAs regarding that. Next page, please. So this page is just kind of a project update where we're at. So there's a couple items here. I'll just read through them. So we've completed our climate change memo, and that takes into account the municipality's climate change policy. It's gone through various revisions, but we've submitted the final version, which is available for review. Number 2 and 3 are the final design basis reports. So they basically go into the options for servicing, the different alternatives we're looking at, and some of the more finer details to come up with the recommended preferred solutions. Number 4 is an advancement of that, where it's kind of a matrix that looks at various criteria and ranks them. And then that's how you basically come to your recommended solution from that perspective. So it looks at various things such as cost, climate change, other economics and social factors. We'll get into that in a bit more a few slides later. Number 5, we've provided our notice of commencement for the project to Indigenous contacts as well as their government entities, M&R, Ministry of the Environment, etc. And we've started to receive responses back and logging those for presentation in the final master plan. So similar to number 6, we have a master contact list completed, which is updated as we receive comments. If individuals on the public would like to be added, then we indicate them in the list, and they get directly contacted and notified of updates, etc. Number 8, we've submitted the draft Public Information Center notice for review. So that's going to be publicized in the paper and also on the website, and we'll be mailing it or emailing it to individual stakeholders as needed, especially the First Nation contacts. The PIC boards that we are going to be preparing have been submitted in draft for review, and they will be finalized before the PICs occur on August 27th. And of course, at the PICs, there'll be sign-in sheets and comment sheets for physical filling out by attendees, and there'll also be an option on the town's web or the municipality's website to receive comments as well. And another item, number 11, we're going to be providing kind of a frequently asked questions document. We'll have printouts there at the PICs where people can, if they have specific questions, they'll be kind of answered already, but it'll promote them maybe to think and be able to present more comments themselves during the meeting or later on. Next page, please. This is kind of just a general mapping of the project process under the MCEA policy. So right now, phase 1, which is the problem and opportunity, where we identify the basis for the project. Phase 2 is where we review the alternative solutions. We look at them, we develop them based on a problem statement, and then we basically come to a recommended preferred solution, and then we present to the public and stakeholder through the consultation process. So that's the "we are here" area. And then after that, we finalize the master plan, identify the preferred solution, and then submit that for review. So any phases beyond that, phase 3, 4, 5, are related to future specific EAs of the recommended solution. So again, if the solution is to look at a wastewater treatment plant or a new water plant, then you would move into those future EAs, and you would basically go through that process to select a type of wastewater treatment plant, distribution system, water treatment plant that you would build. Next page, please. So current next steps, as we talked about, we have to do the public information sessions, which we're going to be doing on August 27th. Draft boards have been provided of the presentations, which I believe everybody has access to. And if there's any comments on those or any information that you feel that needs to be edited or brought forth, then we would edit those and have them finalized before the PIC. Then once so the strategy for the PIC is kind of an open forum. We're going to have boards printed out, large boards, 2x3 color. They're going to be on stands, and then they'll be put in an order of progression. So when people come in, they can walk the boards, and then council staff and WSP and OCWA would be there to support answering questions, walking people through. If they have very technical questions, you could send them over my way, but generally they'll be probably asking a variety of questions, and then they'll generate their comments. Yeah.
Will we have a chance to sort of review that before it goes to the public?
The boards should be provided in drafts already, and so we've had some comments from OCWA and Municipality already, but if we're getting too wordy in them or not, or adding more images or things, so just a preference. If you feel there's some edits required, then by all means, provide that information to Peggy. So, yeah. And then obviously after the PIC, there'll be about a 1-month comment period where we can receive comments from the public, from council, from anybody, the stakeholders that have maybe come to the meeting. Anything we get on the website that's submitted online, and then we'll document that and proceed to respond to them as required. And all that information gets populated in the final master plan in an appendice or not, or in a table. Item 4, then we have to, finalize the evaluation matrix based on the recommended solution, and then finalize the master plan report, and then put it out for review and the question period. Next page, please. So again, the upcoming PICs, there'll be 2, one separately for Lineshead and one separate for Tobermory on the same day. They'll be about 2 hours long. And basically we'll introduce to the stakeholders and or public who attend more about the class environmental assessment process, reviewing the study areas, the proposed alternatives, how we reviewed the alternatives and came up with the preferred solution, preliminary, that is. And item 3 is, how they can provide feedback on the presentation and how the alternatives presented and the preferred solution that's been presented. Next page, please. So one of the main ways to get to the preferred solution or preliminary preferred solution is an evaluation matrix. And usually we have, it's on the next page, it'll go into a bit more detail, but we have kind of criteria that we utilize. And then we have indicators that support the criteria, and they're set up with various percentages to get to one's 20%, one's 30%, then you rank them, and then they basically combine into an overall ranking for that criteria. And you look at that for each alternative. So for example, there's impact 0, no impact, minor impact, moderate impact, significant impact. So we can go to the next page and I'll give you a better idea of that. It's a bit small to read, but basically we have 5 main criteria: the natural environment, social economic environment, technical suitability, constructability, which is, can you actually build this system? And then cost. So right now we have ranked them each with a 20% ranking up to 100%. And then within each one of those, we've come up with indicators that represent that criteria. So for example, natural environment, we look at surface and groundwater sources. We look at natural heritage in the area and climate change. So as you can see, climate change is an important item, and it generally fits the bill in the first 4 categories or criteria. Under the cost criteria, is basically your capital cost and then your future relative to operation maintenance over 20, 50 years or whatever the lifetime of the asset is. And then we go into, what does each indicator mean? So what happens with this matrix is it builds a large table and we give rankings for each of these, and then it comes up with, a recommended alternative. And we've used experience on other projects to do this. There is opportunity to modify these as we see fit, but it really depends on what your most important factors are. Next page, please. So this is just an example of the criteria and indicator. So again, natural environment, we're giving it a 20% ranking. And we have 30% within that, 30% and 40% related to surface water and groundwater impacts, heritage features, and climate change. So we basically look at that and we come up with a suggested ranking. So I didn't want to go through them all, but that's just an example from the prior page. So the next page, please. So these are the water alternatives for Tobermory and wastewater. So in either case for water and wastewater, the do nothing option is always on the table, which is maintaining these systems as they existing are. So in Tobermory, for example, it's a small water service or system servicing a few buildings, and the wastewater servicing alternative existing level services is more advanced, but it's still limited to a small area of the downtown. The next item for both are very similar. It's expand more into the downtown core and community area. The third option is, again, building off the prior two, expanding to the downtown areas, communities, but also looking to expand beyond that, further down Highway 6 to future developments that are potentially in the works or could be in the works. And, hitting up any institutional or other items along the way. So it's very similar. All 3 options are very similar for water and wastewater for Tobermory. Next page, please. So based on that evaluation matrix that I had shown kind of the setup before, this is just a high level representation of the results of the review. The actual evaluation matrix is provided in draft to Peggy, so it is available for review if you want to look into more detail on how the rankings were. There's quite a bit of information in there, but this is just a very high level. So as you can see, the ranking for natural environment, green being the most preferred, the second option, which is, focusing in the immediate downtown core or adjacent community area. Social, it's kind of a tie between option 2 and 3. Technical suitability, number 3. Construction will obviously be the most expensive for option 3 because it's a larger area, more pipes in the ground, bigger plants, and obviously the operational cost would be higher over time. So we basically take that. So we have 3 yellows and 2 greens for the second option, which comes out to be the preferred option. So again, that's Tobermory water. Any questions on that? Again, there's the ability to see that more detailed matrix if you want. It's available from Peggy. So I would take a look at that if you're interested. And it will be provided in the final master plan as well. We won't be presenting that larger version to the public. We'll be presenting more of this version to the public, just to limit the details. But it will be available for them to review in the final report. Next page, please. It's hard to see, but this is kind of the preferred solution area. There's different color representations that are hard to see, but it basically carries existing areas plus also expansion for subdivisions that we've seen that are, if not in the works, or potentially in the works. But again, the board this will be shown at the Public Information Center. It'll be on a nice colored board. It'll be in good detail. It'll be easier to read. So. And it gives kind of it shows a location, existing water treatment plant, commercial, municipal versus residential lots, and existing development and future development areas. Yes.
And maybe this isn't the time to ask this, but in Tobermory right now, a big question is going to be, like, I guess just to put it in context, there was a business, Princess Hotel, that just tried, and in the process of doing expansion. They literally spent months rock breaking.
Yes.
And it just pounded like everybody in town. What you could hear it out at our house, right? And like we, as far as I'm concerned, desperately need a water system just on a safety perspective for those businesses around, regardless of anything else that might happen in the future or whatever. But that's going to be a concern for the public in that how do you mitigate, or does this process look at that or other ways of doing things? Because I can just about imagine even like a short distance, because Tobermory is basically on a big rock that obviously is one of the hardest rocks on the planet, because when you they use every size of rock breaker as far as and it just literally, they pound it for 8 hours a day. So I'm just like, does anything in this, because it's gonna be a concern for people.
That's definitely part of the review of the alternatives. Obviously there will be a lot of rock removal required with putting in water main sewer, especially depending how deep it goes. There are ways to mitigate that. Obviously you can put the pipe in shallower and insulate, but that adds a cost as well. And but yeah, it does create noise, does create dust, traffic issues, all these things, can add to the public's frustration and obviously a cost concern. So any expansion I would expect would obviously try to utilize existing.
Well, that's when this is my ignorance on some of the stuff, and I should know this because I have contractors in the family, but do you ever use like I get, would water and sewer in the same system be a huge no-no?
You can have, there's certain separation distances that they like to see for water and sewer, obviously also for contamination. If say the pressure drops in the water main and you get some sewer leakage in it, you can have that get in there. So typically the water main's higher than the sewer, and they have a vertical and a horizontal separation. If they're crossing under each other, then you have to do the same thing as well. The ministry does allow some ability to move them closer. And yes, I mean, it would be more beneficial to try and, if you can trench once, you're removing the rock once instead of coming once for water main and once for sewer. So there are ways to mitigate things.
There's mitigating measures before, because we have found in some of our public that they'll think worst case scenario right off the bat, especially if you have people that are residential that have their own, that may not, I mean, I think most of us see the value and the health and safety of our community and our future economically. But anyway, yeah, I just thought that that's an important consideration. I guess it is everywhere, but just since our community's been through this recent, it's brought everybody to mind some of the.
I mean, you can do geotechnical investigations where they do boreholes to check the rock depths. I mean, if just, it's there, you want to spend the extra money to figure out the exact heights, and you can get a rock profile and you can design based on that. That adds a lot of extra cost too. And even if you're doing a borehole, 5 meters apart, the rock could deviate immediately and you wouldn't know it, right? So it's how detailed you want to investigate that is something that has to be discussed. But I think in any case, you have rock pretty well everywhere. So it just, you don't know if it's 2 feet below ground or 3 feet or 1 foot, depending where you go. So, but these are things to look at when we look at the costing. And then in the future, and then you can always expand the systems in phases as well, right? Where your highest interest in developing, you move, or the current residents that want to move over from a well to a water system and go from there. So, yeah, those are things you can look at. And some of that information will be detailed in the master plan. It may not go into the very specifics because we're not at a specific project at this point that we'll look at, but it'll look at the overall. Next slide, please. So again, similar to the Tobermory water, the preliminary preferred alternative is the second option, which is similar, matching and expanding the existing system in the downtown area and the community map that we had just seen. A few of the items are a little bit different because the wastewater is different than water. So in the first option, it's kind of swapped between 3 and 1 between the worst case and the second worst case. And I think generally it's the same throughout. Next slide, please. And this map is virtually the same as the water. It just shows the existing sanitary infrastructure on there with the force main and the gravity collection system out to the lagoons. So again, this will be in a nice big image for the presentation at the PIC, and you can see in more detail. Slide, please. This one is for Lion's Head, and we have 4 alternatives for water and 2 alternatives for wastewater. Again, in both options, there's a do nothing, which is maintain the existing level of service. So, for example, option 2, very similar to Tobermory, where we'd be adding in fire flow protection in Lion's Head for the water system. Option 3 would be, again, another add-on to option 2. So it would include looking at servicing Lion's Head with fire flow and expanding the water supply to Ferndale. So that would be an add-on to Ferndale. And then the same thing for option 4 would be adding on to Isthmus Bay and Barrow Bay. So in these options, we would be extending services to them, not picking up locations along the route. It would just be to the main core of the areas. So it'd be like a trunk sewer or trunk water main.
Before you move on, just on the Isthmus Bay one, Troy. And we just went through a road improvement there on Isthmus Bay. And we kind of went out to the public, but we did go out to the public up Isthmus Bay to see if there was any interest in water. And the result was there was not a whole lot of interest.
Yes, and I think that was brought to us in a prior meeting. So
Yeah,
that is obviously in the most expensive alternative as well. So
yeah, yeah.
that's good to note. From the wastewater perspective, obviously there's two options: do nothing, since there is nothing right now, or build a new wastewater treatment plant and service the downtown area of Lions Head. That's that piece. Lions Head option, we looked at all four alternatives, and the preliminary preferred solution came out as the second option, which is just focusing on Lions Head proper and providing water with sufficient volume for fire flow. The next closest one would likely be the second one, which was expanding to Ferndale as a component of that. Any questions? And again, these are all in that larger matrix, which you can see how we came to that conclusion. So if you have any comments on that, it can be reviewed.
The preferred option is Lions Head proper, you say, and that's the actual dotted red.
Yeah, we can show you on the map in a second if you want. We can skip the wastewater if you want to go 2 slides.
No, that's good.
Sure.
No, sorry, I'm getting ahead. Yeah, you go and sequence. Yeah.
So next slide is the wastewater one. And again, it's just 2 options. So the third option is to provide a system. Constructability and the cost would obviously be the red items. They're more expensive in that, obviously, but the natural environment, social economic environment, technical suitability from the review we've done have outweighed the costing perspective. So next slide, please. So again, you can kind of see here the boundary that we've considered for the water and wastewater system. Recently, we did expand further up to the east to capture that long trail along the water there of roads and homes. And we've indicated on here, plan developments, development applications that are in process. And have also indicated the existing layout of the water system just to showcase where it currently goes and where it could go. So again, the focus would be, you could do this phased as well. You don't have to do all the streets at once, but you'd obviously have to have your water treatment plant that can function and service these in the future as you expand. And then the wastewater is obviously picking a location where you put a plant. So that's a big item to deal with, obviously, under a future Schedule C EA assessment. The master plan will go into some details on, how to establish that for the future EA. And I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, we can move back and forth between slides.
All right.
But it's just a it's a good thing to have this meeting, just to give another update, since it's been almost a year since the last update, and just to give you some more overview of what's happening and the PIC that's coming up, and questions that we may get at the PIC from the public. So,
Well, yeah, one of the first questions people always want to know is how much.
Yeah.
And so when do we get sort of a rough idea of that?
when we went after the Hughes application last year, we basically had to come up with some costing to put in the application to try and get the funding. I believe we picked, we couldn't look at every alternative, right? So we had to basically pick an alternative, and we focused on Tobermory, to be honest.
Yeah.
That only.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's in the tens of millions of dollars, right? Depending on you want to do. So there is details in that, which will be putting in the master plan, but you have a distribution system. You'd have to install the rock. You'd have to upgrade your water treatment plant in Tobermory, for example. We were looking at, do you upgrade at the existing location, which is space restrictive? There was another municipal lot that was available that we looked at. And then there was also a third lot that came up after that is I believe an existing parking lot that was potentially could be reestablished as a location. Under those alternatives, you would be still using your intake at the current water location, but it would become maybe a low lift station that pumps just to the wastewater treatment plant at another location, and then you would pump to the distribution from there. So we went into quite a detailed cost estimate for that, which can be taken forward and utilized in the master plan to give those details. Since we didn't go after any funding for Lion's Head, that detailed review hasn't been completed at this point, but there would be something similar provided in the master plan for that. But I mean, I think we went after a lot of money. So, and under that funding, it was, I think we'd have to cover 33%, basically a third. So
Was it 60 bill? How much was it? That rough cost? Was it 40 or 60?
I think it's just under 30, between 30 to 40 million, I think, for without, and then the grant funding on top of that. Yeah. But I don't know that number off the top of my head. Sorry.
So is that information provided at the public information sessions?
If you want to go into that detail on costing, I guess we can provide some information. Yeah. Right now we don't have a slide on that, but we can give that kind of an estimate.
Yeah, it is a question that we'll get, of course, for sure. Yeah. So I don't know what the rest of the council feel.
I almost want to present the dream and then the reality could come at another meeting.
Yeah.
You've been watching too much US TV. We're gonna go over. Yes.
No,
And then we'll revise, but well, everybody knows it's going to cost a lot, and everybody hopes and thinks that we should get funding because tourism, even these days, is becoming, it's going to become more and more important to the country. And when you tell people there's no water system in Tobermory, it just blows their mind. They just assume, right? And you saw that highway. It's a wonder the tip of the peninsula didn't drop off last weekend. But I think the key with the funding is going to be how much we can possibly, and I think we have to use everything we've got in the toolbox as far as convincing somebody that we could potentially have a real problem if we don't address this.
Yeah, definitely going after funding, monitoring funding opportunities is important. The last one we went after, it was kind of a little bit of a bad timing because they really like to see master plans or schedules, EAs completed. That can help you push from, have a better chance of getting the funding. They also wanted to, a big part of it was how many of your houses for future development are ready to go. So that's a big key too. They wanted to see that. So that's I think what was difficult in the last one. So I think if the master plan's done and you have other more detailed information on future ready homes, then I think it'll
and that's a totally different situation up there because it's a tourism business, and the other issue is that the national park brings so many people to the area, but they just do their thing, and then they even limit, which they have to. Then we're left to deal with everything else. But having a community that's safe and functional and can deal with those people is part of their success.
Mm-hmm.
So we expect more from them than we get, which is basically nothing. But it's a maybe it's something that can be played upon as well.
So your comment with regards to future housing. Like, or right up, just explain that a little bit more.
Well, just the application we had before, we had to kind of approve shovel, like what subdivisions were kind of, or what amount of homes being future. So they asked us to like show per year. So next year, this many homes will be built. This year, this many in the next 5 years. And I think if you could show that you had more shovel ready in the ground, you're able to build the infrastructure and have it in place for these, it really helped the application to proceed. So that was just that type. I'm not sure what other applications and funding agreements will be, but this was just that under that Hughes application. So we had to really focus on, you know, the safety, getting people off wells, you know, that could have their own contamination in each well, right? Looking at supply, you know, some of these wells that some of these systems that Leo operates, they had to put in holding tanks because they couldn't get enough water out of the well, right? Or having, you know, treatment issues. So these were things we tried to promote in the application for safety and resilience in the system and moving to a municipal system. So I think you're going to see that in future funding types as well. But
So do you think there's a strong application for Tobermory?
I think there was. I just think it was at the time of the first one, there needed to be a bit more background work available at the time. It was just when the application came out, we had a deadline to get it in. We did our best to get the proper information.
Is there still 66% funding, like 33? And
I'm not sure in future ones. It probably will be very similar, but
okay.
Yeah.
To be honest, like if you want to just take a look at it, our biggest issue up there in a lot of ways, well, providing safe water in restaurants and businesses and motels, but also providing washrooms for literally hundreds of thousands of people. Like that's where the big thing is. And when we didn't have water for washrooms, it was not good. So it's like it seems to me like it's a totally different scenario than some of what you know we talked about previously about subdivisions and okay, maybe there may be some development, but boy, I'll tell you, there's a lot of wishes and not a lot of things actually happening in some like to prove. But that's our main key in Tobermory is providing the services for all the people. They even for day trippers, and I don't know how you prove that. Just how many people are coming up that road and what statistics are and. Maybe we'll have to put little clickies on those washrooms at the community center or something, but. Thank you.
all right, any further comments regarding this? So the the meeting is August 27th.
yes,
And which one is first?
Tobermory's first in the morning, 9:30. Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
All right. And Rod was asking about us seeing those public information center draft. So
Every document that I listed in one of those first slides is available for review.
So they will be in your file, in your SharePoint file, and we'll send you the link on those. And then we also have the Let's Talk NBP website, which has this project as its own entity. We've already uploaded today's PowerPoint presentation there also, plus all of the advertisements for the PIC and any other information that's provided to the public will also be provided on this file too. So the PIC boards will also be included on Let's Talk NBP once that we've had the public information centers. So it'll be we'll have for the public that are traveling, they'll still have the opportunity to review and provide comment.
all right. So there's no more. Yes, go ahead, Tom.
I just have one question regarding Lion's Head. Wastewater. Is natural environment red? Is that because the existing systems are nearing the end of their life, or what was all the reasoning why that is red.
It was probably based on, I'd have to look at the matrix more, but it's probably based on, you know, the risks of individual septic systems.
Sure, okay. Thanks.
All right, if there's no further questions. Thank you for your presentation. Leo, do you have any comments to make or? You're here.
I guess just to add to that comment, the risk in this case would be distributed between the population, whereas if you have a wastewater treatment system, basically your risk is focused on the operation of one system. So
Actually, in our frequently asked questions, that is talked about so that there's conversation on that and that as well. If you're interested, that document should be available as well. So it looks at the differences between a individual well versus a water system and an individual septic versus a collection system.
in we've had multiple meetings and the comments that always seem to surface is construction costs, especially related to Tobermory. Especially if you develop a treatment system for a limited amount of person, then your cost per person becomes higher. The challenge also in Tobermory is to go get those people because your construction cost for distribution and collection systems is quite high. And we've seen, and this is historical. I mean, people from the area. I mean, we've seen in Lion's Head in the past and in Wyerton. I mean, construction historically, we've in 1990 and in 2000, 2014, 2015, and we all went through basic construction in Wyerton and actually in Lion's Head also, where we've had complete sections of water main froze because back then the water mains weren't installed deep enough, right? So it's short term when those were constructed short term, basically, obviously to save money, but long term gives you challenges with operations, right?
Well, and the issue with Tobermory is a lot of these places may not even be open in the winter. Right? It's so seasonal, but.
All right.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
All right.